Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to add on to the what is heaven and hell conversation. If you guys didn't watch part one, definitely watch part one because we're building off of these in each episode. So make sure that you watch these in order because you're going to get lost in the reads if you don't. So speaking of reads, I want to bring forth a couple ideas from different religions today that I think help inform my theory or my idea of the afterlife. And you'll find that I can pull from many different religions, from Eastern religions, Western religions, ancient religions that nobody practices anymore, and I could kind of pull them all together under this theory. They kind of all fit. Now, sometimes there's a little bit of jim jamming. I got to like make things fit or make things work. I don't want to force anything, and I don't want to be I don't want to be blasphemous. So, if I bring forth an idea that's from the religion that you identify with, make sure you guys check me on it, okay? Make sure you guys are policing me. I want you guys to keep me in line in the comments. So if I misrepresent any ideas, please let me know down below. But I want to talk about a couple things today. So first, I want to talk about karma and reincarnation. That's both found in Hinduism and Buddhism. So karma reflects how actions can carry ripple effects that impact future experiences. While traditionally, this idea is more tied with rebirth, this karmic idea does play into my theory of you reliving your life and seeing all of your sins, seeing all of your good deeds again. So I'm going to get more into that in future videos. We'll spend a whole episode just on Hinduism. We'll spend a whole episode just on Buddhism and how do they view the afterlife? How does it fit into my theory? I also want to go over purgatory. So I'm speaking more from a Catholic position here. I'm a Catholic myself. That doesn't mean that I don't have respect for all my other Christian brothers out there. I have a lot of respect for you Orthodox, you Eastern Orthodox people out there. I appreciate you guys immensely, but I'm speaking from a Catholic position here. Purgatory is seen as a cleansing process, a space between heaven and hell where the soul undergoes purification. Now, I think my theory does fit into that description as well. Now, obviously, purgatory is not explained in the Bible as I explained heaven and hell in the first part of this series, but I want to explore that more in future videos. We might have to spend a couple episodes just on Christianity. It's something that, I have obviously studied Christianity more than any other religion. I'm a little bit more connected to it, so I might have a little bit more to say on that, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to make an effort to try to talk about Hinduism, Buddhism, all the other religions to an equal degree if I can. Like I said, I'm a little bit more connected with the Christianity, so bear with me. Another one that I want to touch on today is the Field of Reeds. This is ancient Egyptian mythology, and I actually think that this little description here does actually fit almost perfectly on my heaven and hell theory. I think if there's one religion that I think connects with it the most, it's actually the old ancient Egyptian mythology. So in Egyptian beliefs, the soul's journey after death includes the weighing of the heart against the feather of Mat, truth and justice. A life unbalanced by wrongdoings leads to a sort of self-imposed hell. Hell, they don't exactly use that word, but through separation from the harmony of the universe. This does reflect kind of this dual heaven and hell experience model that I professed in the first part of this series. So I find that the Field of Reeds is definitely an idea that we're going to go into in more depth in future videos. I'm just highlighting today a couple of the ideas so you guys have a sense on where we're going. Today is going to be mostly focused on my experiences and how I actually came up with this theory. That's something that I want to share with you guys today. We're going to get it out of the way because I don't want to talk about it again in future parts. I want to separate my own experience from this thought experiment process, whatever you call this this experiment that I'm doing with these videos. I don't know exactly what to call it, but my deep thoughts, I guess. So I also want to touch on, actually, we'll leave Judaism for another day. That's a little bit more complicated. We're going to talk about Nietzsche, actually. Before I get into my experience, or should I switch it? What should I do first? Ooh, the audience is on the edge of their seat right now. What am I going to choose? Let's talk about Nietzsche after. I'm going to talk about my experience first, okay? So I don't have too much to say about this experience because I'm going to have to detail it out in a separate video, not a what is heaven and hell video. This won't be detailed out in this video. I'm just going to give you guys kind of a loose representation of what happened to me. And then when I do a film analysis on the film that I'm about to talk about, then I'll get a little bit more into my thoughts, because in order to give you guys an expansive explanation of what happened to me, I would have to take a couple hours to do it. So that's a little bit, it fits better if I just do it in the film analysis video. So the film that I'm referring to, I was on a trip, and I watched Enter the Void. Some of you may or may not be familiar with it. If you're familiar with this film, a lot of things are clicking in your head right now. You're looking at that first video that I made, part 1, and you're going, oh, I understand how we got to that conclusion now. But if you haven't seen Enter the Void, I can't recommend it. I can't recommend any of Gaspar Noé's films. He's a director that is very challenging, and he pushes people. He really pushes people's buttons. Enter the Void, famously, a lot of people walked out of it when it first debuted. They were throwing up. They felt nauseous. A lot of people asked for their money back. And that's not to say that it's a bad film. I actually think it's a masterpiece of a film. I think it's a 10 out of 10 film. However, it is extremely traumatic. Just the story and how it plays out. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of background on what the film's about without spoiling it for any of you guys who are curious to watch it. So basically what happens, and again, this is not a spoiler because it happens in like the first 5 or 10 minutes of the film, but your main character dies in the first 5 or 10 minutes of the film. The rest of the film, it's a 3-hour film. The rest of the film, you're experiencing the afterlife. You're experiencing him going through heaven and hell, reliving his life. All of the things that I kind of detailed out in the first video is kind of what the main character goes through and throughout that movie. And he's reliving his experiences, and he had a pretty messed up life. So you see a lot of the sins, I guess, that he committed, and the ripple effects of it, obviously. And it's it truly is. It's up there with like Come and See, Requiem for a Dream. It's one of the most traumatic, emotionally affecting movies that I've ever watched. I was destroyed by the end of it. I just sat with a blank stare at the screen when all the credits went by, and then the credits stopped, and I just kept staring at the screen, just in disbelief of what I just experienced. It's probably one of the most powerful movie experiences that I've ever had in my life, and it does inform my theory on heaven and hell. So I thought I would just put that out there for those who are curious, who want to know kind of where my thought is stemming from. Now, to get into Nietzsche, because Nietzsche's thought of eternal recurrence is something that I came upon after experiencing this film and after developing my own theories. But reading The Gay Science, I came across this idea from Nietzsche that really, it helped confirm that I was on the right path. It gave me a little bit of, okay, I'm not the only one. I'm not crazy. It's not just me and Gaspar Noé who are out of our minds in thinking this. Obviously, Gaspar Noé, and he does this in the film too, he actually directly references his references. He does actually draw a lot from the Tibetan Book of the Dead. So we will talk about the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the Egyptian Book of the Dead. We'll talk about lots of books of the dead throughout this series. Today, I guess we're already like halfway through the video, but I want to focus on Nietzsche just for right now. Yeah, I picked out the passage from The Gay Science, but I also picked out 3 passages from Thus Spoke Zarathustra. I don't know if I'll read them today. They are complicated. They're very poetic, and thus they're so abstract, and there's so many different ways I can pull them apart. I might save them for another day. But I was going to go over 4 quotes from Nietzsche today. I think I'm going to go over just the one. So here is what Nietzsche put forth as his idea of the eternal recurrence in The Gay Science. And I think it aligns quite nicely with my theory of heaven and hell. So, what if some day or night a demon were to steal after you into your loneliest of loneliness, to say to you, this life as you now live it and have lived it, you will have to live once more, in innumerable times more, and there will be nothing new in it, but every pain and every joy and every thought and every sigh and every unutterable, small or great, in your life will have to return to you, all in the same succession and sequence. Would you not throw yourself down and gnash your teeth and curse the demon who spoke thus? Or have you once experienced a tremendous moment when you would have answered him, "You are a god, and never have I heard anything more divine"? So, that is that speaks to the power of Nietzsche. He just put it in much better words than I rambled for in the last video. I rambled for half an hour, and Nietzsche put it in such a concise and beautiful way like that. And obviously, I'm expanding on that idea in a lot of different ways, and I'm pulling from other religions, and I'm pushing that idea further than Nietzsche did. However, I think the way he put it there is beautiful. What if a demon came to you and told you that you would have to relive your entire life? Every single minute instance would be exactly the same, and it would happen in exactly the same order. How would you feel about that? So, that touches exactly on how I think your afterlife's going to play out. So think about it now. If you did have to relive your life, how would that feel? For myself, I know that it would be, there's moments, there's like these dark spots in my life where I met my shadow and I did evil things, horrible things. Like truly evil. Like I've done evil in my life. It's not just that I've done bad things, but I've done evil in my life. And I'm not going to speak for everybody watching or everybody in the world and say everybody's done evil. I know everybody's done bad things. I know everybody's sinned. But to dive into that realm of evil, to confront your shadow and to hurt people intentionally and maliciously, that is that's another level of darkness. Now, I believe that everybody has gone through that, but again, I don't want to speak for everybody. But if you think on those moments, and you all have something that's popping into your head right now, like I'm kind of looking at the ground because I have an image in my head of who I hurt, exactly how I hurt them. And it's painful to reflect on that. I don't reflect on it often because I've made up with those people. I've gone past. I've done the healing that I need to do to get past it. It's not something that bothers me all the time, but when I do think on it, it causes a certain amount of distress, as it should with all of you. I'm sure you're all kind of feeling that right now. You're thinking back on the worst thing you ever said or the worst thing you ever did to somebody, and it's horrible. But obviously your entire life isn't that. Your entire life isn't doing evil. At least I hope not. I hope I don't have like the next Stalin or somebody watching my video right now. If you are, hopefully I can help you get back on the right path. But I don't think anybody watching this video right now is just like a complete evildoer and that's all they're doing. Certainly I don't think you'd be watching a video on heaven and hell if you were. But it's something to think about. Our lives aren't going to be one or the other. It's not going to be black and white, kind of how Nietzsche put it. That's why I'm saying that I think we all relive our experience, and it's heaven and hell. I think we both go to heaven and hell because we're creating that every day. And the more hell you create, the worse the hell's going to be in the afterlife. Because like I said, you'll see the ripple effect. So it'll be much worse than what you're experiencing now. You can only do so much now because you don't have the wisdom of God. Assumingly, you'll attain that to some degree in the afterlife when you become one with the infinite, or however you want to put it. But right now, you can only think about it so deeply. But you should think about it as deeply as you can, because I think it leads you. Jordan Peterson says that if you stare into the abyss long enough, you do see the light, and that's kind of a little bit reverse to what Nietzsche said. He said, if you gaze into the abyss long enough, the abyss gazes back at you. And it's something like if you stare into evil long enough, I think another one of his quotes is, if you fight monsters long enough, you might become one. Somebody will re-quote that exactly how Nietzsche said it in the comments, because Nietzsche put it much more beautifully than I just did, but there is something to that. But there's also something to what Jordan Peterson's saying, that if you do search in the darkness long enough, you will find light. And I think, to speak to that for a second, if you take the time to reflect on your sins, on that dark moment, on that dark spot where you met your shadow self, for some of you, you might not have gotten there yet. that moment still might be in the future for you. For some of you, you know exactly what it is because it's very vivid in your mind right now. And you're like, can you please move on to a different subject? I don't want to think about the worst thing I ever did. But if you seriously ponder on that and you think about the ripple effects and you try to imagine it, you try to think, okay, I hurt that one person, but then who did they hurt because of my actions? How did that ripple out? And if you really, really meditate on that, you'll get to a point where all you want to do is help all of those people that you did wrong. And obviously you can start expanding that out to the to another. This isn't Jordan Peterson's idea. He takes it from Dostoevsky, but if you take on, and I think Dostoevsky takes it from the Bible, but if you take on the sins of the world voluntarily, you can walk the path of Christ. You will stumble. You will definitely stumble because you're only human, but you can walk the path of Christ and you can create for yourself a heaven around you. And that's pretty damn beautiful. But to take on the sins of the world, should I wrap it up here or should I go into this idea? You know what, I'll go into this idea. I was going to make this into a separate video, but I do believe this, so I'll expand on it now a little bit. If you take on the sins of the world fully, if you fully take them on, and I mean this literally, I mean if you assume that you're responsible, you directly, the person watching this video, if you assume that you are responsible for all of the sins, every single sin of every single person, not just living, but who will live and who has already lived, if you take on the sins of all of them, now that might seem like way too big of a responsibility. Way too big, but it's the maximal possible responsibility. It's the largest possible cross you can carry. And in some ways, only Jesus Christ could do that. That's kind of the story of the Bible. Only Jesus Christ could carry that cross because it's an unbearable load. But if you put that load voluntarily on your back and you start thinking that way, you start thinking that you truly are responsible for that, you'll start to act in a different way. You'll start to act, well, as if you're responsible for those sins, so you'll start to treat everyone as if they're Christ. You'll start to treat everybody like as purely and as perfectly as you can, with as much like humanity as you possibly could. And I think that creates for a beautiful life. I'll give you guys an example in my own life. When I was an atheist and I was in high school, I would constantly debate my religious teacher. And we would go back and forth, and I would have quotes from Nietzsche and quotes from Hitchens and quotes from Richard Dawkins to throw at her, and I could dismantle anybody. I thought I was king of the world. I thought I had it figured out. I thought I was the one who could disprove God for certain, and everybody who believed in God was dumb. They were all archaic people who didn't know how to think. This was my thought process in high school, and I would debate my teacher to the point where she would like cry, like be on the verge of tears. Because she's like, how do I get through to this kid? And he's turning everybody in this class into atheists. Like, what is happening here? I'm doing everything I can. And she did a fantastic job. Like, she really made a good case. I just wasn't listening. I thought I had it proven. So I think about this all the time. How many people did I convince? How many people did I turn to atheism? How many people did I turn to nihilism? How many people did they turn to nihilism and atheism? Am I responsible for the atheism in the world? Am I responsible for the nihilism? Am I responsible for the depression in the world because I was putting those ideas out? Now, obviously, probably no. But if you assume that, I think it's the best thing to assume, because I now have this assumption. I know it's not real, but I have this assumption that what I did in high school rippled out infinitely, and now the reason why this world is in a fallen state is partly because of me, and I'm responsible for it. Now, I think that and again, I don't want to be blasphemous here, but I think there's a reading of the Bible that could play into this a little bit. I think okay, we're gonna get really into the weeds here, so I apologize. I apologize if I lose anybody here, but I think that there's an idea in the Bible of Jesus returning to save the world. And I think, again, I do not want to be blasphemous here, and I want to be very careful with my words, but I think if you do walk that path, if you do walk uphill with the largest possible cross that you can bear, if you take on the sins of the world, it's not obvious to me that you can't become the next manifestation of Christ, that's not in you. Now just think about it for a second before you go, this guy's blasphemous and this is not how you're supposed to read Christianity. I understand. Just give me a second. We don't exactly know what Jesus was doing up until he was in his like late 20s, early 30s, right? We don't exactly, we have the one story of the temple when he was a teenager, a younger kid, but for the most part, we don't exactly know what he was doing with his life. We don't know how long it took him to gain the ideas that he had. We don't know how much philosophizing he did. We don't know how much praying he did to get to where he was at, to where he had, amazing speeches like the Sermon on the Mount. We don't exactly know the full life of Christ. We don't have every single day detailed out. So what if there's some mystery in that? What if there's some ability within you to evolve to that state? Now you might say, well, I'm not going to become the next Jesus Christ. I'm not the Messiah. Like, what is this guy saying? And I understand that, but to some degree you might be. Let's just assume for a second that there is a multiverse, okay? If you assume that there's a multiverse, then there's a universe where you are the best you, the best possible you, where you do the most good, where you're the closest to Christ that you could ever possibly be as a human being. Whatever universe that is, you should be trying to become that version of you at all costs. You should be trying to manipulate whatever your consciousness is now to make the right decision so you end up in the multiverse in which you are the best possible version of you. I don't think that there's any difference between that thing and the next Messiah. It's not clear to me that you can't live a life, you watching this video, it's not clear to me that you can't live a life that could be written about in the same way that Jesus Christ's life was written about. Now again, this is not how you're supposed to read the Bible. This is not how you're supposed to read these Christian texts. I'm kind of distorting it and manipulating it in a way to fit my definition. But I think there is something to that. I'll leave you guys with this tip for today because this video's, again, been a bit of a mess. When I get on, I always get nervous putting these videos out because I get on here and I just start talking and I don't have a script. I'm not really prepared. But I get on here and I start talking and I feel like I'm making sense. I'm feeling like I'm attacking the truth. I feel like I'm blazing forward, but at the same time, I'm doing it in a very messy way. I'm opening hundreds of cans of worms all at the same time, and it's rough. So just bear with me. I will get better at this over time, but I'm going to leave you guys with this. This is a beautiful thing, a beautiful saying, analogy, I guess. I may have come up with it. I don't know. I'm like everything, somebody 1,000, 2,000 years ago has probably said it better than me. But I truly believe that when you put a cross on your back and you walk uphill, so what does that mean? When you put the maximal possible responsibility on your back, and that might not be taking on the sins of the world, it might be the maximal possible responsibility that you can bear right now. And that's good enough. But you need to do that. So if you put the maximal amount of responsibility on your back and you walk uphill, which means you walk to somewhere higher, you don't just carry it around and mope about it and be like, You don't walk downhill, you walk uphill. You still go up. And you still try to become better, even though you have that burden on your back. And it is a burden. There's a lot of responsibility that's going to hit you guys in life, whether it's children or, parents getting older. There's a lot. It's going to be a heavy load, but you have to keep walking uphill. And when you do that, it does two things for you. I think this is really beautiful. It strengthens your legs, and it provides a shield on your back. So what do I mean by that? Well, literally, that's what happens. If you literally take a cross made out of wood and you carry it up a hill, your legs will get stronger. But that works metaphorically too. If you put the maximal amount of responsibility on your back and you walk uphill, you're going to get stronger. You're going to be a stronger human being. You're going to be a pillar for your community. If you do that, if you put responsibility on your back, you can do that in rungs. You can pack on more and more and more responsibility as you get older. So you pack on a little bit responsibility. Maybe you sacrifice going out with your friends. You don't party anymore. You stop watching sports and you focus on a degree, or you focus on studying something and you make something of yourself. And then you have some money. You have a little bit of room to grow. And then, you're stronger. So you could take on another responsibility. So maybe then you find a girlfriend. You take on that responsibility because that's a responsibility too. And then, you grow with her, you get stronger, you become a better human being now that you have somebody else in your life. And then you can take on another responsibility, perhaps having children. Now you have a family. That's a huge responsibility. You put that on your back, you get stronger again. And then maybe you can support your community. Maybe you can run for office. Maybe you can volunteer. You can become something greater. And you could just keep pushing that out and out and out. And Jordan Peterson highlights this, that if you take on the responsibility or the sins of the world, if you put that on your back and you make that your responsibility, there's no upper limit to that. And if there's no upper limit to that, then maybe you actually can become the next Christ. And again, I don't want to be blasphemous. I do not want to be blasphemous. I want to keep that Bible intact how it is, and I want to read it correctly. But I think there's something to the ideas that I'm putting out there. And as far as providing a shield on your back, this might be harder for some people to see, but literally, if you carry a cross up a hill, there's going to be something over your back, so it's literally a shield. But morally, or metaphorically, it does provide a shield on your back. If you put on the maximal amount of responsibility, God protects you. And I don't know what that means. I don't know how to say that scientifically. I don't know if it's karma, if it's the universe looks out for you when you do good things. I don't know exactly how to say that, but it happens. And unless you've done that, unless you've put responsibility on your back like that and you've carried a heavy load, you've never seen it because you've been living the opposite life. And we'll talk about the opposite life in future videos. But if you do that, there is something that looks out for you, whether it's angels, God, the universe, karma, whatever word you want to put on it. When you do that and you walk uphill, things seem to go well for you. So I hope that helps. I know that was kind of roughly about heaven and hell today. We kind of went all over the map. I apologize. I was going to make that last little bit there about you possibly becoming the next version of Christ. I know that's a crazy idea. I was going to make that into its own video, but it kind of snuck its way in today, so I guess it's a happy mistake. But I hope that helped somebody. I hope somebody connects with that, because it's a radical idea, and you shouldn't go out professing it and be like, oh, this guy says that this is how you're supposed to view the Bible. No. Don't listen to me. Read the Bible for yourself. Explore it on your own. I just think it's a useful idea. You should try to become the best version of you. Even just with the multiverse thing there. Like, try to become the multiverse version of you that's the best. Try to figure that out. And yeah, aim up. Aim up, as Jordan Peterson says. Onwards and upwards, my friends. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, it means the world to me. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends. It helps boost this channel and the algorithm. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.